Susan Baumgaertel, welcome to the Lean Out podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here in not quite so sunny Seattle, but sun's on the way, apparently.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm excited to talk to you today. Why don't you tell the listeners about your work life balance, introduce yourself, and tell us how it's different from other people in your chosen profession?
Yeah, well, I'm from Seattle originally, grew up in Ontario, Canada. Poof, came back, got my degree in architecture and urban planning, very different. Went to med school in Seattle, residency and beyond, and I've been practicing in internal medicine, gosh, for 30 years now. After a lot of sequence of events that were challenging in many ways professionally, I decided to pivot, that great P word, about 4 years ago. And I started my own business where I provide medical advocacy and medical consultations via telemedicine. But, that allowed me to kind of blossom and do all my other fun things that I enjoy as well, which is doing kind of a service to women going through menopause. I wrote a book, I have a website, and then a new adventure coming up as well that I can talk about. But it's just been so nice to just kind of take stock of where you are in life, to settle into a different path that's not quite the same as where you started, but using my expertise and my energy from that path and continuing forward. So it's just really a good time in my life.
That's excellent. So, how did you get interested in medicine? I didn't realize that you had this background in architecture and urban planning.
Well, crazy as it sounds, hindsight 2020, I wanted to do architecture and medicine. Had no clue how difficult medicine was, medical school residency and so forth. And I literally almost flipped the mental coin of like, oh, which to do first, medicine, architecture. So I did architecture first, thank God, because I never would have gone back and done it
Yeah.
afterwards. But, life lessons like we learn about ourselves as we go on. And I recognize now that it's because always in my heart, I've kind of joined the art and science and healing part of medicine together. My late mother was an artist. And so that reminded me as I went through, advanced in my career, that was still a big part of what I wanted to do. So
Oh. So you talked about how you had this long-standing career doing clinical internal medicine. Was it outpatient or inpatient or a combination?
So I hung up my shingle in 1996, and at that time, it was the largest multi-specialty physician-owned group in the region. Grew and grew and grew over time. So I was an owner and shareholder. And back then, I mean, hospitalists didn't exist. I did all my
Mm.
admissions, all my ICU work, all my everything. I did nursing home rounds. I did everything rounds. I mean, oh my gosh, it's hard to believe now. And then ultimately settled into the outpatient groove after the advent of hospitalists and recognizing you just can't be everywhere at every time. And then I had several hats. I had a kind of mini concierge practice for about 22-ish years. I developed a Many for Change program, which was a weight management wellness program, ran for 7 years. And then, of course, I kind of stair stepped into my menopause work. So I did a lot of different things. It was very invigorating. But when you see that writing on the wall, you know it's time.
Well, tell me more about that. How did you know? What were the signs? And,
Yeah.
what was the inciting event or events that caused you to lean out and take things a different direction?
Well, hard to postage stamp that into 2 minutes, but I would say that if you step back and look at the kind of the healthcare arena in this country, the kind of crazy wreck that it is, the consolidation, physicians working in systems, the corporatization of healthcare, where we're a worker bee, even if you're an owner, your voice doesn't matter. Many of my colleagues have golden handcuffs on, their contracts prevent them from doing X, Y, and Z. And, there was a sequence of events that just kind of stair stacked. And I wouldn't even say I was burned out. I think it was a matter of moral injury. And I just knew. I mean, there were a couple events I just kind of thought, that's it. My tripwire has been tripped. I need an out. And I pivoted in a way that was kind of, in a way, saving myself. But then it became much more than that. I recognized that I could be of service to my patients in a different way. And I could reclaim that energy and that excitement, that passion, and be of service to them, listen to them. help them navigate things differently, not as a primary care doctor, but, and so that was really the springboard upon which I just kind of plunged into the next thing.
Yeah, and I can understand the trajectory toward menopause and helping patients in that realm. So, tell me a little bit about what you do there and what your work entails.
Yeah, so in the early pandemic, God, it seems like it's a million years ago now. So 2020, I started my passion project was a website I called the Menopause Menu. And menopausemenu.com is something that's, oh my gosh, it's going to turn 5 years old this September. It can't believe it's been running that long. It was a platform that was free, it still is, to just give information to women. It's also a very robust blog site. I have written blogs, I have videos, I have recipes. And that was something that kind of helped, maintain my creative passions and my excitement for creating things as I was then kind of hitting that brick wall and then suddenly pivoting. And then that was the platform upon which I then wrote my book, which is called The Menopause Menu. So, of course, I cared for men and women as young as 15, so no kids or babies. But my oldest patient, I think, was probably 105 or 108. I mean, a lot of geriatrics in my professional business. And I think the thing that really, definitely satisfied me was helping women navigate those perimenopausal, menopausal years. And it wasn't just kind of when periods stop and you're getting wonky stuff. It was well into the 70s and 80s, like we're postmenopause till we die, right? And so it was
Yeah.
thinking about things that happen after that journey as a consequence of going through menopause. And so that's been my kind of excitement for that phase of my life.
So, how did you get into the advocacy work? Because I want to say, I have seen people talking about this recently. I mean, you obviously have a great background for it, having navigated patient care in so many different settings. But how did you decide to get into that work as well?
It's very liberating to talk about this because when I left, I literally like walked out the door tossing hand grenades. I went home and cried for weeks. I probably slept for weeks. I was exhausted. And I thought, how do we get this idea going? I knew I was not ready to retire. And I didn't want to just open a flower shop or a bookstore. I mean, I wanted to use my profession in a way that was different. And I just feel like, creativity can't be forced. And I kind of stumbled into this new process of kind of figuring out how I wanted to do almost accidentally. I mean, if you go to maybe business school 101, you figure this out, but I hadn't, right? So what I did was, on a whim, remember this is a pandemic, so you're not gathering necessarily groups. I had 2 Zoom focus groups, and they were with former patients. About 50 people came, so 25 in each group. And I came with like a 5, 8-minute spiel, talked about like what I think I might want to do. And then I just opened the floor and people could ask questions and so forth.
Mm,
So I videoed
wow.
both. I said this will never see the light of day, but I videoed it so I record it so I can learn from it later. Because when you're doing something, you can't really like, remember and take notes. And I figured out people's, like, price points, what they might wanna pay, like, I don't bill insurance. I figured out what they would see me for, or why they thought telemedicine would be terrible for them, or why it would be fantastic, the whole dynamic. And I'll never forget that one of the patients who was there with his wife, and he was, a lot of Medicare patients, and he said, "I'm really sorry, Doctor B. I love you, but we're in a fixed budget. There's just no way I can afford this." Well, fast forward to when I opened my, virtual door. Oh my gosh, was he like one of the first patients who saw me? And I was dying to know what happened. And of course, I helped him for his issue. And I said, okay, I'm going to chit chat now, but it's my buck. I'm not going to charge you. I'm just dying to know, why did you decide to see me? And he was reflecting. He said, you know what? We pay for a lot of things in life. They didn't have kids, nieces and nephews and so forth. And, we'll buy them a new coat. We'll take them out to dinner. We go on trips. We do things for ourselves all the time. Why not put money into myself? He said, I realized the relationship I had with you was so important to me. I didn't want to lose it. Like I almost cried. So learning about why we might make a difference for someone just helped me be better at what I was doing. So that was kind of the impetus.
That is so smart. The idea to take already this huge panel of people that you have their contact information for and invite them to a focus group, if you
Yeah.
will. So
Yeah.
smart. Did you set out with the idea that you were going to do advocacy work, or did that come about from the focus group?
Boy, I think it was a bit of both. I think I had this idea. I didn't know, you throw a post at the wall, see what sticks. I didn't know what was going to work. And then some of the thoughts that I got from those groups resonated with me. And so it kind of percolated and then kind of boiled up. And I thought, I'm still going to have a medical licensure. Of course, that means a lot in terms of paying your license renewal fees, getting malpractice insurance coverage and cyber coverage. Oh my gosh, all those things wrapped into one. I realized I didn't wanna put all that aside, get rid of that, and just be, "Hey, Susan's gonna coach you." Nothing wrong with coaching. I thought, so how do I blend that together?" And that was important for me to then say, "Okay, so it's not just," although it's not just is a big word, it's not just telling people how to navigate systems or how to get a doctor or kind of how to get second opinions and how to, transfer care and so forth. It's about validating what they're going through. Maybe we talk about caregiving issues. Maybe we talk about weight management, favorite topic of mine, maybe menopause. Maybe it's about navigating cancer care. I've been involved with a local, actually regional and national nonprofit, Cancer Lifeline. I've been on the board and, so helping people navigate that kind of like, oh my gosh, I have cancer. What do I do next? So there's all these little things that could kind of fall under that umbrella of being a physician at the same time being a compassionate listener and caring about them.
Yeah. So tell me about the nuts and bolts of this kind of a practice. Do you have to have malpractice insurance? What are the different kinds of business things that you have in place that need to be there?
Yeah, initially, I think the best thing I did, which is true for probably any big life transitions, get a good attorney. And a lot of people, online groups, they always like, oh, so much money. Like, wow, would you try to find the cheapest cardiologist in town? No, you want the best experience. You want, I mean, the analogy is pretty obvious. So you don't want to just have a knockoff attorney that maybe gives you 20 minutes of free time. No, pay, invest in yourself. So investing in my website, that was important for me. Investing in my attorney, that was important for me. And that helped lay the foundations of what do I really need. So when I set up the nuts and bolts of like, what practice platform to use online, or do I need to maintain my licensure and so forth? Yes, yes, yes. Do I need malpractice insurance? Absolutely. And then I learned all about cyber insurance. Didn't know about that initially. And so all those things were important to understand because I'm not an attorney. I have a degree in medicine. And so I'm not also, I didn't go to business school. And so it was important to get these people to support me in that. And then of course I'm doing it on my own, but with initial really good support.
Yeah, and it's analogous to what you were talking about with your patient where, we invest in all sorts of things. Why would we not invest in our personal healthcare? So why would you invest in your
Right.
business and your own personal growth and
And you're exactly right. I find that, after my pivot and when I just kind of like the shell shock of leaving, was kind of wearing off, I must have met with, I don't know, 40 or more, maybe 45 colleagues over a period of several years. They wanted to meet me for coffee or go for a walk or have dinner or lunch. And all the conversations were almost scarily the same. These were people who wanted to get out of a system but couldn't or felt that they couldn't. They were exhausted because they're working 24/7 like, duh, yeah, we all are. There was fear, like, well, this is all that I know how to do. How could I do anything else differently? Or if you work for yourself, like the whole entrepreneurship path is very, very kind of intimidating. And, many of them have golden handcuffs on or they have muscles, they can't even talk. And so kind of filtering, sifting through that was how do you really reclaim your sanity? How do you find your passion for that next step? And you do need to pay. So many times, I heard so many times people say, like, oh my gosh, I'm the breadwinner for the family. I don't even have like a dime to spare. Like, wow, if you can't put money into yourself, it's not gonna happen. I mean, it's just not. And so I think that that's that investment, that hurdle you have to get over. And then I'm not naive to say that not every business succeeds, but, it's so important to not let that be the only decision maker.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask you a selfish question. Being a 51-year-old perimenopausal woman. And I know that a lot of listeners are going to also have this question, which is, for busy professional women, how should we best take care of ourselves? What is your best advice for women that are navigating that phase that is coming that you are so passionate about?
I love this question. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. I think in terms of and I'll be 60 very, very soon. I think that you have to find something that involves self-care with self-compassion that you can do every day. And it's different for every person. So my thing is going for a walk in my neighborhood. I'm in an urban environment. And rain, shine, we have bomb cyclones here, which is the West Coast version of East Coast hurricane. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm out there. And I remember years ago someone saying there's no such thing as bad weather, it's bad clothing. Oh, it doesn't matter if you
Yep.
get drenched, wet, soaking wet. But I walk probably 45 to 50 minutes, probably 3 to 4 miles every single day. And guess what? This is where I solve all my problems. I mean, I kind of get that creative stuff in the nature interacting with trees and flowers and plants. And I say hello to people, I have conversations, I meet dogs, I get energized to come back and I'm just like buzzed with things I want to write down or think about more. And that is like a cleansing. And so to me, that keeps it all together. And so when you think about that menopausal journey, um, crazy for most women, and this is not a hormones versus not hormones discussion because that's a whole nother 3 hour talk, but we have to allow ourselves to come into our own to recognize like, yeah, we have some wisdom here. Whoa. And to kind of let a few things slide off our backs because there's some things that are going to piss us off and, we women literally are juggling everything. We take care of everything around us, you know? And so, how to kind of become a little self centered in terms of self compassion and care, not selfish, and to let that percolate into how we navigate this time period.
That's such good advice. In my book, I talked a little bit about how taking care of yourself and prioritizing your work life balance is really not a selfish thing. It's going to make you a better professional. It's going to make you a better physician, a better wife, mother, sister, all of those things.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think, it's almost, it's not rocket science, but it's very profound because when, especially thinking about physicians, when during your career do you stop and say, like, ooh, this is what I want? No. Like you gun your way through college, you get into med school, you get into residency, maybe fellowship and this kind of this competition, so to speak, this keep needing to learn more, do more, be more. And you never say, like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that consult today because I'm tired. Like, that's not going to happen. So our needs are put on the back bench, on the back burner. And it takes intention to reach back and put them front and center. And I think that that is not a natural reflex for many of us in the healing professions. And so we have to do that. It then frees us up to be more present, to be caring, to be nurturing, to being compassionate about others. It's a gift to yourself.
I really like your example of using a daily walk because a walk, it really kills multiple birds. I mean, it is exercise, it's activity, it's steps, it's getting out in nature. So you get that fresh air and you
Yeah.
can absorb some of the things that you see and hear. And so it's a mindfulness activity in itself. And then you also have that contemplative time where you can think about things and solve your problems, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
I have recently been on a body recomposition perimenopausal journey myself, and I started getting really serious about strength training. And then I kind of hit a plateau. And over the last couple of months, I started walking more. And I was always a walker, but I really started like trying to add in more than one walk. Like I'll do two in a day because I don't like doing cardiovascular exercise. So this is my cardio. And
Yeah.
it's been great. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's really been helping and moving the needle. So I love that example.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes when we learn new things, we have to get over the initial hump. You try like it feels good for the first day or week or whatever. And then it's like, one day hits when life's crazy. Maybe you're not feeling so great, or you have like 5 million projects, or I mean, or you're traveling. I mean, just there's going to be something that you then the tendency is to like, oh, well, I don't have time for that today. No, if you don't show up for yourself, I know this is an absolute privilege and a luxury that I have working for myself, but I start each day planning when I'm going to go for my walk based on what my other schedule obligations are and so forth. It's not going to be midnight because I don't want to get mugged, but it really is so important. If you schedule it, let's say you work for a company or you have an important meeting with your boss, you wouldn't just no show. You'd either get written up or fired or who knows what. No, why is it that we no show for ourselves? So make it that important. And then after a while, it becomes so natural, you wouldn't even blink your eyes because it's just part of your day. I mean, it really is.
Yes, this theme is something that I've heard from so many guests, which is that you need to schedule in these things that don't actually seem important, if you will, or there's something that
Yeah.
is more personal. Still just put it in your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. And after a while, it's not scheduled anymore. It just becomes organic. You just do it.
Yeah, yeah. So take me back to when you first started navigating this online space and the telemedicine space from being the kind of doctor that was present in a clinic or present in a hospital. How did you weather that identity change?
That was hard for me because I'm very much, a hugger. I mean, half my patients hug me, or if someone's had a hard time, you reach out and you touch their knee or their shoulder. And I mean, that physical touch and being there in the presence in the room, there's an intimacy. I respect this doctor-patient relationship. I think it's almost sacrosanct. And so I knew that was going to be an issue with the screen here. But God forbid we have anything positive to say about COVID. Everyone knows how to Zoom. Everyone knows how to do the screen stuff, right? So telemedicine just kind of exploded because for a while that was the only way you could connect. So I was an early adopter even before COVID, long story, but I learned how to do all this. And so I just literally pivoted when I was still in my previous practice. So it was easy for me to do. And I thought like, oh, okay. So it's not ideal. I'm not there with them, but I can still be helpful. And when you think of like, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not operating, right? You can't do that through a screen. But when you think about as an internal medicine primary care expert, what am I doing? Yes, of course, I'm doing physical exams, PAPs, pelvic, breast exams, you name it. But probably 80%, maybe 90% some days, I'm listening, I'm talking, I'm dialoguing. And I thought, well, I can still do all that in my new business model. So that was of comfort, kind of me comforting myself, like, oh, this is not really, I'm going to hopefully gain other experiences that will make up for the fact that I'm not seeing people in person. And that's where, of course, seeing all these colleagues in real time, going for walks, having coffee, that really kind of made up for some of it.
Yeah, I mean, everything you do, every choice you make has trade-offs, and I love the way that you shifted your mindset from, "I'm losing this part of my practice or my daily work or my identity," to, "I am how can I be in service in another way? How can I still use these skills? Oh, wait, a majority of the time, this is what I'm doing anyway. So here I'm going to pivot and I'm going to use it that way. So it's just really inspiring and wonderful.
I may sound all put together now, but you know what? I think a lot of times reflecting back, you kind of you make things more succinct and you see the connections, you draw those kind of parallels and analogies for yourself. But in real time, like was I that put together? Probably not. I mean, some of this is like you bumble along, you feel like, oh, that's not going to work. Oh my gosh, why did I say that? And then so you learn and grow. And I think that's where when people are thinking about changing or pivoting, they're their own worst enemies. And I know that I'm an overthinker, and I think many people in the medical profession are because we're really thinking about everything when we're helping people. And so you have to kind of turn that kind of soundbite off because you have to allow yourself the breathing room, the space to kind of figure this out and it's not perfect, and sometimes it's super messy, but to be okay with that, and I think that's important to share too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what I was going to ask you was really if you had any other advice for listeners. And that's a really great piece of advice. It's okay if it's messy. Is there anything else that you would like to share today and tell the professionals who are listening who might be feeling burnt out or at least stuck on the treadmill of achievement and don't feel it that they can make a change?
I think there are a couple of things. One is, and I think we inherently know this, but you have to say it out loud to yourself. We cannot be everything to everybody. We just can't. And I think that's hard because there's almost like a guilt, like, oh, I should be able to do that, or I should have done that. Get the shoulda, coulda, woulda stuff out of your brain. And then, from my perspective, I'm very much a lover of creativity, and creativity can't be forced. And creativity, you can think about creativity of like starting a business or making a shift in your career or, becoming different in terms of what your thoughts and how you're supporting yourself. It just can't be forced. And I think that there is no timeline. Some people can literally snap their fingers and boom, they've figured it out. They're on the next path. They're doing great. Others, like years go by. So you just have to acknowledge that and be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Thank you so much. Susan, I appreciate you being on the show today and tell listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, well, my menopause menu website, menopausemenu.com, is where you get all the fun stuff. And please subscribe, you get some little perks. My professional website for people who want to work with me or even consult with me is myMDAdvocate.com. I have two arms. One is for patients, Washington State. The other is for colleagues all across the country in terms of helping them pivot. And then I do have my book, of course, which is the Menopause Menu, available on Amazon, Apple Books, and Barnes and Noble. I also have a new project coming up, dun, 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 drum roll, which is called Voices with Vigor. So that's coming very soon to a screen near you.
Awesome. Great. Well, I look forward to that. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.